Let's just see if you're catching on to all this. You're going to have both of these in your homework. You'll have at least one, probably more examples of each of these on your quiz number 2, where you'll have some fractions to convert into decimals, decimals to convert into fractions. Okay, let's do this one. 3/8. Well, let's get our handy dandy little calculator out here. 3 divided by 8, 3 divided by 8. I'm guessing you probably don't know this off the top of your head. 0.3750. 375. Well, that's what I said. Yes, that's what I said. Short-term memory loss here. But since it's less than 1, how far do we round off? Well, let's see. To hundredths, 2 places. So I'll stop it there. But since the next number is 5, it's 5 or more, any of those numbers, I must make that the next one. So I'll call this 0.38. That is the correct answer you better put on the quiz for that answer. 1/7. I don't have any clue. Let's see here. 1 divided by 7 is 0.1429. 0.1429. Well, I'm going to round this off again to hundredths, to 2 places. So I'll stop it right there. Well, wait. But that number, the next number in the 3rd place, is less than 5. So I can leave the 4 alone, don't mess with it. So I'd call that 0.14. What are the potential wrong answers? Don't round off too soon. You sure wouldn't call that 0.1, because the rule is if it's less than 1, you take it out to 2 places, take it out to hundredths. Another potential problem, you wouldn't call that a 5 because that's the next number is less than 5, so leave that one alone. What about 2/9? 2 divided by 9. Well, looky there. Repeating bunch of 2's. 0.2222 goes on to infinity and beyond. How far do I round this off? Less than 1, I take it out to 2 places. So, but the next one out there, why, it's less than 5, so I'll call it 0.22. What if I have, now that's where I have fractions I'm converting into decimals. Now I've got some decimals, let me convert those into fractions. Here we go again. How could I say this besides 0.4? I could say that is 4/10. That's in the tenths place. So write it out as 4/10. Well, there we go, but I now need to reduce the lowest terms. What can I divide both those by? Well, let's see. How about 2? Divide this by 2. That's 2. Divide the bottom by 2. That's 5. I've reduced it down to lowest term, so the answer is 0.4. Same thing as 2/5. 0.62, that's the way you ought to say it in the real world, but I could say it 62 hundredths. Write it, 62 hundredths, and then you reduce that to lowest terms, and let's see here. I can divide both those by 2, I suppose. Divide 62 by 2, that must be 31. Divide 100 by 2, that's approximately 50. And I can't reduce those anymore, so there it is. So 0.62, the decimal, its fraction equivalent is 31/50. 0.08, now be careful. The 8 is in the hundredths place. So I could say that as 8 hundredths. 8 hundredths. And now can I round this? Can I reduce the lowest terms? Yeah. I can divide both those by what? Oh, by 4. Divide this by 4. That's 2. Divide this by 4. So there we go. 2/25. Now, a few cautions here. This rounding off thing can be a little tricky in some cases. What if I had a number like this? It's less than 1. How far do I round off? And the answer is 2 places. I'm going to stop it right there at hundredths, but the next number is 5 or more. So what would I call that? 0.5. 9, 8. I make the 7 into an 8. Get used to the rules. Now what about this? That's more than 1. So how far do I round it off? Now, this is going to be tricky. I hope this does not cause gastrointestinal pain or stomach upset or GERD or something. Okay, be very careful. This is a weird situation, but you should know how to do it when it crops up. Since it's more than 1, I'm going to round off merely to tenths. I'm going to stop it right there. But since the next number, 6, is 5 or more, I make this the next higher number. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, next higher number is 10. That means I'm going to have to make the 9 into a 0 and make this into the next number, 2. Now, here's a problem. I'm rounding this off to the nearest tenth. What do I do with that 0? I don't leave it there. I'm just going to call that 2. Now, I know I've caused a problem here. Here's the deal. Another, my term, 0 rule. There's 2 rules that involve zeros. Anytime you have a number less than 1, a decimal number, and there's nothing else to the left of the dot, you will put a 0 there. But another thing about zeros, you don't put zeros out to the right. You just drop those zeros. So although technically we have rounded this number off to the nearest tenth, because that nearest tenth became a 0, we eliminate that. In other words, you'd never write a number like 1.0. You wouldn't write that. You'd write it as 1. Never put those numbers out there. Okay. What about this? It's less than 1. How far do I round off? Well, I'm going to round off to hundredths. Stop it right here. Well, oh my goodness. So I do what? Because the next number is 5 or more, I make this the next higher number. Well, the next higher number from 9 is 10. So because of that, this becomes a 0, and that becomes the next higher number. Ooh. Do you see what I did? If you don't, well, look at this video again or drop the course or something, but it's not that big a deal, but you should get used to doing this. This will crop up in rare cases, so know how to do it when it happens. So although I rounded this number off to the nearest 2 decimal place, nearest hundredth, that hundredth place became a 0, so I drop it. I leave that alone. So I don't call it 0.80, I call it 0.8. I don't put that 0 out there. And again, because the computer is going to be grading your quizzes, if you put zeros where they shouldn't be, the computer program will say, wrong answer. It's going to count it wrong. Do not put zeros out there. Well, we have now covered all this time, my goodness, wasting your time that you could have been doing something more beneficial. Wasted all this valuable time looking at what? How to convert fractions into decimals and how to convert decimals into fractions. Now on quiz 1, we spent lots and lots of time reviewing how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. Well, you need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimal numbers. But I'm not going to go over all that because you'll have a calculator. You can't do, well, on most machines like this, you can't do fractions on a calculator, but you can do decimal numbers. So I'm not going to waste your time. In fact, I've already wasted enough to saying this. I'm not going to waste your time reviewing how to add and subtract and multiply and divide decimals because you got a calculator to do it on, okay? So there's homework in the chapter that covers that. I'd recommend do 2 or 3 a piece just to make sure you know how to do it. But it's all right there. There's one more thing about multiplying and dividing decimal numbers I want to mention. That'll be in the next video. It's a minor picky thing, but it's just a handy thing to know. So do the homework over these 4 things using decimal numbers. There'll be some on your quiz number 2. So just brush up on that, and I'll get back with you sometime after this little clicker thing fails to work, as it usually does.